That text he just sent you is not proof that he misses you. It is proof that he ran out of ways to ignore the fact that you stopped being available. And if you do not understand the difference between those two things, you are going to walk straight back into the same situation you just spent weeks trying to get out of. Because here is what nobody actually says when they talk about no contact. Most women think the silence is about waiting. They think they are sitting back, holding out, hoping he comes around. But the silence is not about waiting at all. It is about living. And the moment you really start living, really stop checking your phone every hour, really stop replaying conversations, really stop making his silence the center of your day, that is the exact moment something shifts on his end. Not because you did something clever, because you became someone he could not read anymore. And people always chase what they cannot figure out. So before you even think about how to reply, before you spend the next 2 hours staring at his message, trying to decode it, you need to understand what actually happened on his side during the silence, because what went on in his head while you were quiet is the whole story. And most people never hear it. Here is how it actually goes. The first few days after no contact, he is fine. He might even feel good. There is no pressure on him, no messages coming in that he has to figure out how to answer, no emotional weight sitting on his phone. He stretches out in all that space and tells himself this is exactly what he needed. He is relaxed. He is free. He convinces himself things are just easier this way. But then a few days pass and something starts to happen that he did not plan for. Small things start to remind him you exist. Not in a big dramatic way, nothing that obvious. It is quieter than that. He goes to send you something funny and stops. He has a bad day at work and reaches for his phone out of habit and then puts it back down. Something happens on the weekend and there is just a gap where you used to fit. And he notices that gap. That is where it starts. Because once he notices the gap, his brain does what all brains do with gaps. It tries to fill them. He starts wondering what you are doing, whether you are okay, whether you are even thinking about him at all, whether you have already moved on and he just does not know it yet. And those questions are uncomfortable to sit with. The human brain really does not like open questions. It needs to close them. So without even realizing it, he starts spending more time thinking about you now, when you are gone, than he ever did when you are right there available every single day. That is the part that feels unfair, but is also just true. Your absence made you louder in his head than your presence ever did, and that discomfort keeps building. He starts second-guessing things, wondering if he read the whole situation wrong, wondering if he was too casual about something that actually mattered. And at some point, that uncomfortable feeling gets heavy enough that he does something to try to make it go away. He picks up his phone, he types something, he sends it. That is where the message comes from, not from a big realization. Not from him sitting down and really thinking about what he wants, from discomfort, from an open question he wants to close. So when you see his name on your screen, what is that message really? It is him trying to resolve the unfinished feeling you became. And knowing that changes everything about how you receive it, because it means the silence worked, not as a trick, not as a move you calculated, but as a natural result of you actually living your life without him at the center of it. You became someone he could not figure out, and that pulled his attention back in a way that nothing else could have. But here is the thing, and this is really important. The fact that he texted tells you exactly one thing. He is thinking about you. That is all it tells you. It does not tell you he has changed. It does not tell you he knows what he wants. It does not tell you this time will be different. All of that, every single bit of it, shows up in what he does after the message, not in the message itself. This is the shift that changes how you handle everything from here. You stop trying to figure out what the text means and you start watching what his behavior shows you over the next few days. Because a man who is genuinely interested in something real does not just send one message and go quiet again. He keeps showing up. He asks questions. He puts effort into the conversation. He moves things forward. You feel it. There is momentum. It does not feel like you are doing all the work. But a man who reached out from habit or boredom or just wanting to know the door is still open, his pattern looks completely different. The message is vague, something like, hey, or been a while, or thinking about you. There is no real direction behind it. The energy drops fast. A few replies in and it already feels like it is running out of steam. And within a couple of days, you are right back in the exact same uncertainty you were in before he ever sent anything. That pattern is the real message, not the words he chose. The words just opened a door. What you need to watch is whether he actually walks through it. Now, here is something that almost no one talks about when it comes to this situation: timing. Not just the fact that he reached out, but when. And this has two layers to it. The first layer is how long it has been since things went quiet. If it has only been a few days, that tells a different story than a few weeks. A few days might mean the silence just felt weird to him and he sent something without really thinking it through. It was a reflex. He is used to you being reachable. The absence felt odd and he reached out to test whether the door was still open. There is not necessarily a lot of thought behind that, but a man who sat with weeks of real silence, who felt the weight of it, who had time to actually sit with his own thoughts and still decided to reach out, that is different. That version tells you he did not just react, he chose to. And the difference between reacting and choosing matters a lot when you are trying to figure out whether this person is actually worth your time and energy. The second layer is when during the day or week the messages come in. Pay attention to this. A lot of men reach out late at night, or on slow Sundays, or in the quiet moments when there is nothing else going on. And sometimes that is real. He had some space to think, and you were on his mind. But a lot of the time, it just means he is bored and you are a familiar name. He is not sitting there thinking about building something with you. He is not thinking about what he wants or what you need. He is just filling a quiet evening with a name he knows. And you are not someone's way to fill a quiet evening. So watch the pattern. Does he reach out at different times on normal weekdays in a way that fits naturally into a real life? Or does he only ever show up when he is probably alone with nothing going on? Because that pattern tells you more about where you actually stand than anything he says. Let us also talk about something that gets people really stuck without them even realizing it is happening: the cycle. Because there is a pattern that a lot of people fall into, and the reason it is so hard to get out of is that it never looks like a trap from the inside. It always looks like a second chance. Here is how it usually goes. Things start off really well. He is warm, he is attentive, he makes you feel like you matter, then slowly and quietly the energy starts to drop. Replies take longer. The conversations feel a little thinner. Something is just slightly off, but you cannot name it yet. Then comes the distance, maybe a real silence, and just when you have started to find your footing again, just when you are starting to feel okay, he comes back, and it feels good. The warmth is back, the attention is back, and because it feels good, you lean back in. And then the whole thing starts again. Attention, then distance, then silence, then return, over and over. And every time it repeats, it pulls you in a little deeper, not because the connection is actually growing, but because the back and forth has trained your whole system to respond to his presence like relief. And that is the thing people miss. When someone is steady and consistent, your feelings about them stay steady too. But when someone comes and goes, when their presence is unpredictable, you get these highs and lows, and those highs feel really intense. The high of him coming back, the rush of that first message after the silence, it can feel like real chemistry, like this is the person who really gets you, but what you are actually feeling in that moment is relief. The anxiety of the silence is lifting, and relief and connection can feel almost identical if you are not paying attention. So once you see the cycle for what it is, really see it, you stop being able to mistake the feeling of his return for the feeling of something real. So he texted, now what? This is the moment that actually matters. And this is exactly where most people quietly hand their power back without meaning to. The first thing that happens for a lot of people is they reply right away. Before they have even taken a breath, they are already typing. And the problem with that is not the speed. It is what the speed says to him. It says nothing has changed. He went quiet, he came back. And the same easy access he always had is still right there waiting for him. Which means from where he is sitting, nothing he did had any real consequence. And if there is no consequence, there is no reason to do anything differently going forward. You are still right there, still warm, still available. He did not have to do anything to earn his way back in. The next thing people do is act like the silence never happened. They jump straight back into normal conversation, skip right over the weeks of nothing, and pick up like everything is totally fine. And while that might feel like you are being mature or not making things dramatic, what it actually does is teach him that leaving has no cost. He can disappear, come back, and you will just pick up right where things left off with no adjustment and no questions. So he learns, even if he never puts it into words, that he can do this again whenever he wants to. Another thing that happens is people pour in too much too fast. He sends something short and casual, and suddenly you are carrying the whole conversation, asking questions, sharing updates, trying to rebuild the connection all at once because you are relieved he is back and you want things to feel warm again. But the more you put in early, the more uneven things become. He gives a little and you give a lot. And that gap quietly does something to the dynamic. People value what they have to put effort into. When something comes easy and stays easy, it stays casual. That is just how it works. There is also the trap of reading too much into the message itself. You look at two words and start building a whole story around them. He said, hey, which means he was thinking about you, which means he misses you, which means he has realized something, which means maybe this is the turning point. But a single message is not a turning point. It is just an opening. And it needs to be backed up by real and consistent action before it means anything at all. And the biggest mistake, the one that is hardest to talk about because it is the most human thing to do, is ignoring how you actually feel. When he comes back and that rush hits, it is really easy to push down the part of you that is still unsettled, the part that remembers exactly how the silence felt, the part that still has questions. You push it down because you want things to feel good again. You do not want to rock the boat, but that part of you is not being difficult. It is being honest. And the more you ignore it, the more it builds up until it comes out sideways in a conversation you were not ready for. So what do you actually do when the message comes in? First, you slow down, not as a tactic, not to make him wait on purpose, but because responding from a clear head is always better than responding from the first rush of emotion you feel when you see his name. Give yourself a few minutes. Actually check in with yourself. How do you feel right now? Are you relieved, hopeful, a little anxious, maybe even a little angry somewhere under the surface? Whatever is actually there, that feeling is information. It is telling you something honest about where you are with this. Do not skip over it. When you do reply, keep it calm and easy. You do not need to be cold. You do not need to be distant or weird about it. But you also do not need to come in with a lot of warmth and energy like you have been sitting there hoping he would show up. A calm, simple reply is enough. Something that shows you are open to talking, but that you are also completely fine either way. That energy says more than any specific words you could choose. Then match his effort. Whatever level he is coming in at, you come in at roughly the same level back. No more, no less. If his messages are short and easy, yours are too. If he starts putting in real effort and the conversation starts going somewhere, you can meet that. But you do not lead with more than he is offering. You let him set the pace, and you watch what that pace tells you about how serious this actually is. Here is something worth saying out loud. You do not have to act like the silence never happened. You do not need to make it a confrontation, but you are allowed to be someone who noticed. If it feels right in the flow of things, you can acknowledge it lightly. Not with anger, not with a big speech. Just something that shows you are not going to pretend weeks of nothing was totally normal. That is not drama. That is just a quiet way of holding your ground. After that, the most important thing you can do is watch what comes next, because the next few days will tell you so much more than that first message ever could. Does he keep showing up? Does the effort stay steady? Does the conversation start building towards something? Or does the energy fade fast? Does it start feeling like you are the one keeping things alive? Those answers are the actual message, not the text he sent, the pattern after it. There is something else worth understanding, and it is what he actually expects when he sends that message. Most men who reach out after no contact have a picture in their head of how you will respond. They expect the warmth to come rushing back. They expect to be picked up right where things were comfortable. And that expectation is built on every time before where you did exactly that. Every time you were quick to respond. Every time you smoothed things over fast. Every time you made it easy for things to go back to normal without anything being addressed. That history taught him something. It taught him that reaching out costs nothing, that the door is always open and has no real weight to it. So when you respond differently this time, when you are calm but not eager, when you are open but not falling over yourself, that is new information for him. And new information creates attention. He starts paying closer attention. He starts putting in a bit more effort, not because you said something brilliant, but because you stopped being predictable. And the moment you stop being predictable, you stop being taken for granted. Now let us talk about what this whole situation does to your confidence over time, because even when you can see the pattern clearly, the back and forth still does something to you on the inside. Someone being warm and then distant, making you feel wanted and then uncertain, coming back and then going quiet again, it quietly wears something down. You start second guessing your own reads. You start wondering if you are asking for too much. You start letting things pass that you never would have let pass at the start. And the longer that goes on, the harder it gets to trust your own gut. So rebuilding that trust in yourself matters just as much as anything else here. It starts with separating his behavior from your worth. What he did, the going quiet, the pulling away, the coming back on his own timeline, none of that is a reflection of how lovable you are. It is a reflection of where he is and what he is ready for. Those are two completely different things. But when someone keeps treating you like an option, it is easy to start believing quietly that maybe that is all you are, and that belief is wrong. It was never about your worth. It was always about his readiness. After that, you get honest with yourself about what you have been accepting, not to beat yourself up, just to see it clearly. Have you been letting things slide that did not actually sit right with you? Have you been explaining away behavior because you wanted to believe it would get better? That honesty is not about shame. It is about clarity. Because the moment you stop making excuses for what is not working, your standards naturally rise. And when your standards rise, the things that used to pull you in stop having the same hold. Something else that really helps is putting your energy back into your own life. When someone is inconsistent with you, your focus tends to follow them. You are thinking about them, watching for signals, waiting on what they do next. And the more energy goes there, the smaller your own world starts to feel. So pull it back, not as a distraction, but because your own life is actually where your confidence lives. Your friendships, your work, the things you care about and are good at, those remind you who you are when you are not waiting on someone else to decide to show up. And the last thing is this: stop treating the basics like they are too much to ask for. Consistency, honesty, real effort. Those are not big demands. Those are the floor. The right person will not make you feel like wanting those things means you are asking for the world. So keep the bar where it belongs, not because you are trying to be difficult, but because you know what something real actually feels like, and you are no longer willing to spend your time on something that only looks like it from a distance. Here is what it all comes down to. That text he sent after the silence is not the thing that changes everything. The thing that changes everything is how clearly you see it for what it is and how you choose to respond from that place. The message is just an opening, a question with no guarantees attached to it. What matters is what you see in the days after it. Does he keep showing up? Does he put in real effort? Does the connection actually build towards something? Or does it just loop back into the same old cycle? Those answers tell you everything, not the message, the pattern. And the most important question here is not what his text means, it is what you are going to accept going forward. Because that decision, made clearly and held firmly, is the one that actually shapes what everything looks like from here.